so I work hard now so that tomorrow I don't have to work.
Right.
Like, I seriously cannot wait to not use an alarm.
Right.
The main goal with Kai is just to work with we had this idea to work with these amazing designers and collaborate and bring high fashion to Main Street and have it just be accessible for everybody.
I defend Justin Baldoni in this lawsuit with Blake Lively because I think she's horrible and she's made up this whole thing because she tried to steal his movie.
What's really sick about these guardianships is that they're designed to keep people dependent. The guardians don't want their wards to get better because as long as they're incapacitated, the money keeps flowing. It's the same playbook we saw with Britney Spears and Bam Margera. Keep them isolated, keep them medicated, keep them controlled. According to reports, Wendy's guardian is treating her terribly. She's confined to the 5th floor memory unit and isn't allowed to leave without staff approval. That's not care, that's imprisonment.
No, I want a divorce like yesterday.
Okay.
I want a divorce like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, whenever I found out, 4 months ago.
Okay.
I want a divorce, and I want to be friends with Kevin. Big.
Okay.
Big.
And the fact that Adult Protective Services in New York is now investigating tells you this isn't just celebrity drama, this is a serious human rights issue. Let's dive deeper into this Wendy Williams situation because there's a hero in this story that nobody's talking about. A caregiver named Gina Monasoro has basically risked her career to expose what's happening, and her letter to Adult Protective Services is blowing this whole thing wide open. This whistleblower sent a formal request for an investigation, detailing all these troubling circumstances about Wendy's confinement. She specifically called out how Wendy's restricted to this 5th floor memory unit and can't leave without permission. But here's the kicker.
I mean, and not because we have a son, but because that was real love. I still love him, just not in that way.
Wow.
You know, you're either in or you're out with me. And, you know, but I still have love for him.
According to Gina, Wendy is not incapacitated like her guardian claims. Think about the courage it takes to stand up against a system like this. Gina's essentially saying that Wendy's guardian is straight up lying to the courts about her mental state. She's suggesting there's a deliberate misrepresentation happening to keep Wendy under control. That's not just unethical, that's potentially criminal. What's really powerful about Gina's letter is how she concludes it.
Well, the end friends are for comedians. That's
Okay.
what they do for their living, you know?
Okay.
And what I'm doing is just hosting.
Okay.
Like I'll say, yeah, you know, give it up for, and
She says this misrepresentation could be contributing to Wendy's unjust confinement in an environment that restricts her freedom and social interactions. For someone like Wendy Williams, who's built her entire career on being social and outspoken, this kind of isolation must be absolute torture. The fact that Wendy was able to walk to the ambulance on her own is particularly telling. Remember, they've been wheeling her around in a wheelchair for months, making her seem more incapacitated than she actually is. But when the police showed up for a wellness check,
and I'll change costumes in between because I do believe that the show starts when you leave your house. I mean, this is radio, you can't see, but I'm wearing somewhat of a costume. I'm giving you a look.
suddenly, she's walking on her own. That disconnect tells you everything you need to know about how they're manipulating her public image. Let's switch gears and talk about Jay-Z because he's in the middle of a legal situation that's getting messier by the day. And the way he's handling it tells us a lot about how accusations can spiral out of control. Jay-Z has now filed a lawsuit against this anonymous accuser and her attorney, Tony Busby. He's claiming that they kept pushing a false story in the media and courts, despite knowing it wasn't true. This whole situation started with the Diddy case, and then suddenly Jay-Z got pulled into it, which is exactly what makes this so complicated. What's really interesting is how Jay-Z found out the accuser was lying. A private investigator named Charlotte Henderson filed an affidavit stating she met with this Jane Doe, who admitted that Tony Busby had pushed her to include Jay-Z in the lawsuit. According to this meeting, Jane Doe told Tony that she had been assaulted by Diddy in 2000 and wanted to sue him, but Busby brought Jay into it. But here's where it gets even messier. Charlotte says that Jane Doe told her that Tony had come to her shortly before she dismissed the lawsuit, claiming that Jay-Z was threatening to kill her. That's the kind of manipulation that makes you question everything about this case. What's really wild is that Charlotte claims she wasn't hired by Jay-Z or his attorneys to do this investigation. So Who was paying her? And how did she even find out who the Jane Doe was? These questions make this whole situation even more suspicious. And to add another layer to all this, another PI uncovered that Jane Doe had been in a mental health facility just 90 days before Tony Busby sent a demand letter to Jay-Z. That's the kind of detail that changes how you view this entire situation. Now, let's talk about Blake Lively, because this legal battle with Justin Baldoni has literally split Hollywood down the middle. And what's fascinating is how more and more people are joining Team Blake and Ryan Reynolds. This whole situation started with Blake filing a complaint against Justin, and since then, the industry has been taking sides.
A spokesperson for Blake says today the court rejected the Wayfair party's objections and entered the protections needed to ensure the free flow of discovery material without any risk of witness intimidation or harm to any individual's security.
What's really interesting is how people are aligning themselves. It's not just random support, it's calculated career moves. Because in Hollywood, backing the wrong horse can cost you everything. What makes this particularly fascinating is how Brandon Glinter is handling it. This guy was in It Ends With Us with both Blake and Justin, and he's trying to play both sides. He initially shared Blake's complaint with a heart emoji, telling his followers to read it. But now he's claiming he's Team It Ends With Us and not taking sides. That's the kind of spineless approach that tells you he's just trying to protect his career. The way Brandon handled a recent interview was particularly telling. When asked about wearing the same brooch as Justin, he claimed it was a complete coincidence. He couldn't even say Justin's name. He just referred to him as someone. That's not just awkward, that's someone terrified of getting on Blake and Ryan's bad side. What's really fascinating is how this dispute is exposing the power dynamics in Hollywood. Blake and Ryan have this massive influence, and people are afraid to cross them. That's why you're seeing more people publicly supporting them, even if privately they might have questions. It's not about truth, it's about survival in an industry where your next job depends on who you align with. Let's circle back to the Kylie and Timothee situation, because there's something deeper happening here that connects to the entire Kardashian empire. This isn't just about a relationship, it's about a business strategy that's been perfected over years. The way Kylie's handling this relationship is straight out of the Kardashian playbook. Kris Jenner has built an empire by teaching her daughters to leverage every aspect of their lives for profit and publicity. Relationships aren't just personal connections. They're business opportunities, content creation vehicles, and brand expansion strategies. Think about it. When Kylie was with Travis Scott, it wasn't just about their relationship.
I think I have the most fire. But other than that, we're all really similar. We love doing stuff together, but we also love doing stuff apart and having our own identities.
It was about his Cactus Jack collaborations, her appearances, at his shows, the way they coordinated their business ventures. Everything was designed to maximize exposure and profit for both parties. Now she's trying the same approach with Timothee. But here's the problem. He's not playing by the Kardashian rules. He comes from a completely different world of indie, films, and serious acting. He built his career on talent and critical acclaim, not reality TV and social media metrics. That fundamental disconnect is what we're seeing play out at these public appearances. What's really telling is how Kylie's behavior changes when cameras are around. At this tennis match, she's all over him, making sure every photographer gets the perfect shot of them looking like the ideal couple, but according to sources close. To Timothée, when they're in private, the dynamic is completely different. The pressure she's putting on him to conform to the Kardashian model of celebrity relationships is exactly why insiders are saying he's looking for an exit. He got the publicity boost he needed during award season, and now he's realizing the long-term cost of being another chapter in the Kardashian narrative. Let's get back to Wendy Williams, because this situation is getting more serious by the day. What we're seeing isn't just celebrity drama, it's a woman fighting for her basic human rights. The fact that Wendy's guardianship is being investigated by Adult Protective Services tells you how serious this has become. This isn't just about managing someone's finances anymore, it's about potential abuse of power. When someone is dropping notes from windows begging for help, that's not normal guardianship. That's a cry for rescue.
Yes. Yes, I do. I think about it, and it's what drives me, and I love it. I love that I have that drive only because I know that, I don't have an inheritance or something like that.
What's really disturbing is how similar this is to what happened with Britney Spears. For years, people dismissed concerns about Britney's conservatorship as conspiracy theories. It took a massive public movement and years of legal battles before she finally got her freedom. Are we going to let the same thing happen to Wendy? The way her guardian is restricting her movements and controlling her life is particularly troubling. Wendy's not just any celebrity. She built her career on being outspoken, on saying exactly what she thinks. To take that voice away from her isn't just unfair, it's cruel. It's like caging a bird that's meant to fly. What's really powerful about this situation is how Wendy's still fighting. Despite everything they've done to control her, she still found a way to get a message out. That note saying "Help Wendy" wasn't just a cry for assistance. It was an act of resistance. It was her way of saying, "I'm still here, I'm still fighting, and I need the world to know what's happening to me." The fact that she walked to the ambulance on her own power is another sign that the narrative about her incapacity might be greatly exaggerated. If she's physically able to walk, what else might she be capable of that her guardian is downplaying or restricting? Let's talk about something that connects all these stories, the way power works in Hollywood and celebrity culture. Because what we're seeing with Blake Lively, the Kardashians, and even Wendy Williams all comes down to who has power and how they use it. The Blake Lively situation is particularly fascinating because it shows how influence can shape narratives. Look at how Brandon Glinter is behaving. He can't even say Justin Baldoni's name because he's afraid of the consequences. That's not just caution, that's fear.
Then I went back and reviewed some of the limitations of the litigation privilege, and I realized Lively may have made a big mistake.
And it tells you everything about the power Blake and Ryan wield in the industry. What's really interesting is how this power dynamic plays out in public versus private. In public, everyone's taking sides and making statements, but behind closed doors, that's where the real pressure happens. That's where calls are made, where opportunities suddenly disappear, where people find themselves blacklisted without ever knowing why. The Kardashian empire operates on a similar principle, but with a different approach. They've mastered the art of turning attention into currency. Every relationship, every drama, every public appearance, it's all designed to feed the machine that keeps them relevant and profitable. Kylie's behavior with Timothee isn't just affection, it's business strategy. And then there's Wendy Williams, who's experiencing the darkest side of power imbalance. Her situation shows what happens when someone loses control of their own narrative completely. When others get legal authority over your life, your voice, your freedom, that's the ultimate loss of power. What connects all these stories is how celebrity culture creates these massive power imbalances, whether it's Blake and Ryan potentially influencing who gets work in Hollywood, the Kardashians turning relationships into content, or Wendy's guardian controlling her basic freedoms. It all comes down to who has power and who doesn't. Listen, we need to wrap this up by talking about what all these stories tell us about celebrity culture in 2025. Because what we're seeing isn't just random drama, it's showing us how the entire system operates. Think about Kylie and Timothee. On the surface, it's just another celebrity relationship, right? But dig deeper, and you see this clash between two completely different approaches to fame. The Kardashian model of turning every aspect of your life into content versus the traditional.
But it's always fun when we could do stuff together. I think Chloe is the all-around favorite aunt. But yeah, I'm excited to be an aunt and yet again.
Hollywood approach of letting your work speak for itself. What we're witnessing isn't just a relationship struggling. It's two entirely different celebrity philosophies colliding. Then there's Wendy Williams, whose situation should honestly terrify everyone. Because if someone with her platform, her resources, her connections can end up passing notes through windows begging for help, what hope do regular people have against these systems? Her fight isn't just about one woman's freedom, it's about exposing how these guardianships can become prisons. And Blake Lively's situation shows us how Hollywood really works behind the scenes. The way people are choosing sides isn't based on facts or justice, it's based on power and self-preservation. That's the ugly truth about an industry that pretends to be about art and creativity, but operates on fear and influence. Before we wrap this up, I want to hear your thoughts on all this. Drop a comment below about which story shocked you the most. Are you Team Blake or Team Justin? Do you think Timothee is already planning his exit strategy? And most importantly, do you think Wendy Williams will get the help she's literally begging for? If you're finding these deep dives valuable, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're going to keep following these stories because they're developing faster than anyone can keep up with. Remember, behind all the glamour and headlines, these are real people dealing with real situations. Sometimes the most important stories are the ones happening just beneath the surface of what we're shown. Stay informed, stay critical, and I'll catch you in the next video.